Picture the person you assume is the richest on your street. You are probably imagining a sleek German sedan or a gleaming luxury SUV in the driveway. Now here is something that should rearrange that picture. When researchers actually looked at what Americans earning over $250,000 a year drive, 61% of them were in mainstream cars. Hondas, Toyotas, Fords. The single most common car owned by American millionaires is a Toyota. The flashy car you pictured is far more likely to belong to someone stretching to look rich than to someone who actually is. So let me show you why the genuinely wealthy choose boring cars on purpose, and the real math that makes it one of the smartest moves they make. Start with the thing that makes a car different from almost every other large purchase, the thing the wealthy never forget and most people manage to ignore. A car is a depreciating asset. It does not hold value. It actively destroys it faster than almost anything else you can buy. A new car loses about 20% of its value in the first year alone, and roughly 60% of its value over 5 years. You hand over $50,000, and 5 years later you are holding something worth $20,000. That is not an investment. It is a slow fire you parked in your garage and are making payments on. And here is the part that flips the whole status game on its head. Luxury cars do not depreciate less because they are expensive. They depreciate more. Some luxury models lose over 70% of their value in 5 years. The badge you paid a massive premium for is the exact part that evaporates fastest. So the person who buys the $80,000 luxury car is not just spending more. They are buying the steepest possible depreciation curve, paying top dollar for the privilege of losing the most money. The wealthy person looks at that and sees, very clearly, a trap dressed up as a reward. So let us put the real numbers side by side, because this is where the boring car stops looking boring and starts looking brilliant. Take two people. One buys a new $80,000 luxury car. The other buys a sensible, reliable 2-year-old car for around $30,000. Just on the purchase, that is a $50,000 difference. But it gets worse for the luxury buyer. Over the next 5 years, that $80,000 car sheds close to $48,000 in value. The $30,000 car loses around $15,000. So the luxury owner does not just spend more up front. They watch tens of thousands of extra dollars quietly burn away while it sits in the driveway. Now follow the money the boring car buyer did not spend, because this is the move that actually builds wealth. Take just that $50,000 difference in purchase price and invest it instead at a normal market return. In 20 years, it grows to about $230,000 from one car decision. And almost nobody buys just one car in their life. Do this every time you replace a vehicle, every 6 or 7 years across an entire adult life, and the boring car habit quietly compounds into a difference of well over $1 million by retirement. The boring car was never about the car. It was about everything the saved money silently became. And the gap shows up in the monthly payment too, not just the sticker. The average new car payment in America has climbed to around $760 a month. A reliable used car can easily be half that or less. Call the difference $400 a month. Invested at a normal return for 25 years, that monthly gap alone becomes nearly $400,000. So every month, the luxury driver is not just making a car payment. They are quietly choosing the car over a small fortune, over and over, usually without ever doing the math. Let me make this concrete with 2 neighbors, because it is the whole lesson in one driveway. Both earn the same solid income. The first leases a new luxury car, trades it in every 3 years for the latest one, and always has something gleaming out front. The second buys a 2 or 3 year old Honda, drives it for 12 years, and invests every dollar the first neighbor pours into payments and depreciation. From the street, the first neighbor looks like the successful one. Everyone assumes it. But fast forward 20 years. The first neighbor has had a series of beautiful cars, all gone now, and very little to show for the hundreds of thousands of dollars that flowed through them. The second neighbor is sitting on an investment account worth more than a house, built almost entirely from the gap between a luxury car and a sensible one. And here is the part that should really land. The second neighbor never felt deprived. They drove a perfectly good, comfortable, reliable car the entire time. They got everything a car actually provides, getting safely and pleasantly from one place to another, and gave up only the part that was never really theirs anyway, the fleeting impression on strangers. They traded an audience they would never meet for a fortune they would actually live on. Same income, same roads, same decades. One bought the look of wealth. The other quietly bought the real thing. So here is a question I would genuinely like you to answer in the comments. Think about the nicest car you have ever wanted, the one you picture when you imagine making it. Now ask yourself honestly, how much of that desire is about the driving, and how much is about who you imagine seeing you in it? There is no wrong answer, but the honesty of that answer is worth more than the car, because that question is the real heart of this. When the wealthy skip the luxury car, they are not depriving themselves of transportation. They already have excellent, reliable transportation. What they are skipping is the status, the signal, the hope that a stranger at a red light will glance over and think, that person made it. And here is the quiet truth the genuinely rich figured out. That approval is the single most expensive thing in all of finance, and the least durable. You pay tens of thousands for it, in a depreciating shell, to impress people who forget your car the instant the light turns green. The wealthy stopped paying for an audience that was never really watching. This is the deeper pattern behind every boring car in a nice neighborhood. The truly wealthy separate two things that everyone else has glued together. There is transportation, which is a genuine need, and there is status, which is a want you are effectively renting from other people's opinions. Most people buy one object and let it serve both, and massively overpay because the status half has no ceiling. The wealthy buy a tool for the transportation, keep it for 10 or 15 years, and refuse to pay a cent for the status, because they realize the status was never going to make them feel the way the ads promised. The freedom of not needing to look rich is, itself, a form of being rich. And notice the strange inversion this creates, the one you can see on any street if you know to look. The person in the least luxury car is very often the one with the least actual wealth, because the car is the performance standing in for the savings that are not there. And the person in the 10-year-old Toyota is very often the one quietly sitting on a 7-figure portfolio, because every car they ever bought was chosen to preserve money instead of broadcast it. The cars are telling you the exact opposite of the truth. The boring car is frequently the loudest possible signal of real, durable wealth, if you have learned to read it. So what does the genuinely wealthy approach actually look like in practice? It is almost embarrassingly simple. Buy a reliable car, ideally lightly used so someone else ate the worst of the depreciation. Buy less car than you can technically afford. Keep it for a decade or more, because the cheapest car you will ever own is the good one you already have. And take every dollar you did not pour into a status symbol and put it somewhere that grows instead of shrinks. That is the entire strategy. It will never turn ahead at a stoplight. It will quietly make you wealthy. So step back and look at the driveway one more time, the one you started by picturing wrong. The boring car was never a sign that someone could not afford better. Very often it was the clearest sign that they could afford almost anything, and were simply too smart to buy the thing designed to take it all back. They chose the asset over the audience, the compounding over the compliment, the freedom over the flex. The luxury car was never really the dream. The feeling it promised, the sense of having arrived, that was the dream. And it turned out you cannot actually buy that from a dealership. Only rent it for a few months until the novelty fades and the payments do not. And the real version of that feeling, true financial security, has a price tag a lot closer to a sensible used car plus 2 decades of investing the difference than to anything with a premium badge. The only thing standing between most people and real wealth was the belief that they had to look wealthy to get there. You never did, and now you know the math. If this changed how you think about one expensive thing you have been telling yourself you can't have, there are a lot more of these, the real math behind the life you actually want. Subscribe, and let's keep decoding it together.